In the earlier lesson, we saw how we can create elements and we can position them randomly, add in some style, and they are a little bit boring. They're all red. In this lesson, we're going to fix that and add some color. And that's because we're setting background color to red. Let's create a function that's going to generate and return back a random color. So the color is going to be within a hex format because, of course, we can't do all the different named colors such as red, blue, green, and so on. So we want to just generate this as easily as possible. So we'll call it getColor. And within this function, we're going to return back whatever the value of the color is. So it's going to be a hex color. So we can simply return back the hex value. And now let's generate the hex. So creating that hex value, we want to use, now there's a number of different ways online that you're going to find, and some of them are really short to generate random colors. We know that colors are anywhere from 0 to 255 if we've got a hex. So if we do random 255, we can do the RGBA colors or RGB colors within this type of format. So we're returning back a random value anywhere from 0 to 255. So if we save that, and let me open up the console, we'll type in getColor, and we see that we get this random value back, so 63. So that's not helping us because we want to turn it into a hex and bring it all together, and that's where we can use toString. And what toString does is it allows us to update the string value to return back within a hex format. So now when I refresh, and if I do getColor again, so let's refresh, we get a hex value back. So it can be anything. It can be 75. It can be 4A. So these are all hex values. And you can see the way that the string prototype works. Again, on the Mozilla Developer Network, when we run this, we can generate using toString. So basically that gives us a base 16, which is a hex number and a hex value. So that's how we can generate random hex values that are within a hex format that are values from 0 to 255. Now we need to use that, and there's also one other thing that we want to make sure. So in cases we have a value that only has one character, we want to fix that. And the way to fix that is to make sure that our string, and we're going to get a substring of -2, adding in a value of 0. So we can take this value and let's add in a value of 0 in front of it. And then we've got our value here that we need to turn into a string. So this is actually getting fairly complicated. So the way that we're going to do it is we're going to set up a function in order to do that. So function, and we can just call it cul. So function within this function. And instead of returning back the hex value, we're going to return back the value of this with the hash in front of it and add in that value. And then within the function, within that function, we're going to returning back the value of hex. So that's not really going to change a whole lot here of what's happening when we do getColor. So we're launching that getColor method. We're still getting that random color value, but we've got the hash in front of it. So that's all that's changed so far. And we do want to make sure that we always have at least 2 characters here. So instead of just returning back the hex, let's create a formula for that. So adding in a 0 in front of it and using the string method, we can turn and make sure that this value is going to be within a string format. So that's just to make sure that we are getting a string format. And because it's a string value, we can use a string method to it, and that's substring. And what substring does is it returns all of the characters in the string from the beginning location. And if we do a substring of -2, it will return back both of those characters. So in a sense, we're not going to see a whole lot different there, but we're always going to be sure that we're returning back at least 2 characters. And if we don't return back 2 characters, such as in this case, we got it padded with a 0 in front of it. So in this case, this would have just been 9, but because we padded the 0 in front of it, we see that it's a 0, 9. And one last thing that we need to do is that we've got only that one hex value, and we know that all colors have the three different colors to it. So we can add multiple values to it. And now when we do get color, we're returning back a random color value, and we can use that within our formula. So instead of returning back red, we can simply launch our function to get color. So going back into our display area, now we should have different colors for all of these shapes that are showing up. So I know this was a fairly long and intense lesson. I do want you to try this out for yourself. And as mentioned, there are a number of ways to generate color values within JavaScript. So this is one that's fairly straightforward, where we're generating the hex value and then we're just padding it with a 0 using substring to make sure that all of these are 2 characters long at least. So go ahead and try this out for yourself. And coming up next, I'm going to show you how we can create some interaction and also set up a timer for when these shapes are showing up. So that's still all yet to come. Go ahead and add in the color generator function of this application.